Hey everybody, here for Real Housewives of Atlanta season 8 episode 13. I have a mouthful to say about this episode. A mouthful. And I apologize in advance for any profanity. You might want to take your kids, put them in the room, because I am going to go off. And you guys know exactly who I'm going to go off on. So anyway, basically the ladies are getting ready to go to Jamaica to for Cynthia's commercial. They're all getting their things ready together, packing. Peter and Cynthia discussing, all the things they're gonna do in Jamaica, and then they start discussing Nene. And Peter is like, I hope you didn't tell the other girls that Nene is coming. And she's like, no, I haven't told them. They're gonna be shocked, when she pops up. We're gonna keep it at a surprise. So as everybody's getting ready, Kim, surprisingly, she came with her husband, but she came with her kids too. So I'm like, really, Kim? Like, this is an adult couples retreat, but okay, whatever. We already know how Kim is at this point. We know she doesn't go anywhere without her tribe. So I guess bring on the kids. She also had a nanny friend there to help her, so I guess she can deal with the kids when Kim and Chris decides to have their adult nights or whatever. So um, like I said, all the ladies are getting ready to go to Jamaica or whatever. Um, Before I get into the Jamaica trip, they put in these couple of clips with Candy and her family. Candy is like, well, asking Todd, do you feel like we're missing anything not going to Jamaica? So, um, Todd is like, yeah, because Peter is from Jamaica and it would be nice to see where he's from, get his taste of, the Jamaican culture, whatever. Candy is like, well, I never really thought about it like that, so it probably would have been a good idea. But I wasn't looking forward to the drama. And I'm like, okay, Candy, you're pregnant, so we get it. And then, her and Todd are discussing it further when they were eating dinner, and Candy did this quick prayer just so she could eat her food. I'm like, she's a mess. So, Candy is like, yeah, every time they do a trip, it's always some underhanded drama, and I just really wasn't looking forward to that. But I mean, the fact that they keep talking about Jamaica, you could tell that Candy is a little bit butthurt that she didn't get to go. But I mean, she has to suck it up and deal with it because she's like a gazillion months pregnant. She ain't flying nowhere at this point, but to the hospital when it's time to, have that baby. So, all right, the Jamaica trip. Phaedra came alone. Portia came alone. Cynthia and Peter came. Kenya came with her boo Matt. Kim came with her kids and Kim came with her kids and her husband and her nanny friend. But what shocked me the most was Sheree coming with Bob. I was like, last time we saw Sheree and Bob on episode, he was sticking his tongue out at her after court. He was saying how he ain't giving her no child support. Matter of fact, the last time we saw Sheree and Bob, Iyanla was trying to fix their life. Okay? So I'm like, and I'm watching this episode and I'm like, Bob actually looks good. Like he done lost some weight. He done cleaned himself up. Even with his little dead eye, he looked good. I'm like, oh my god! And then to see them cracking, I'm like, this is beautiful. Like I was just like, wow. Like they look good together. You know. So anyway, they get there and they're looking at their suites and everything, and they're picking the rooms and whatnot. So they're getting ready to hang out and whatnot. So what happened? Cynthia, Kim, and Kenya go and have a private meeting. Well, matter of fact, before that, when they were on the bus, not Portia, Phaedra brought up Kenya not being in a commercial. Like she basically threw it out there with the whole commercial. Now, of course, Kenya feels some kind of way because Cynthia says she feels like she wants to go with Kim on the commercial for the simple fact that Kim is the one that showed up and pitched her idea. Kim was on point last week with her ideas and what she wanted to do and whatnot. So, Cynthia felt comfortable going with Kim because Kim was on time. Kim is following the budget and Kim is exceeding her expectations when it comes to this commercial. So, of course, Kenya is in her feelings. So, her, Kim, and Kenya, because she decided she was gonna do a separate meeting with them anyway. They meet up, have a little meeting about the commercial, and Kim and Cynthia being professional about it. Here comes Kenya in her feelings. throwing shots at Kim, talking about you're tired, you're not relevant, you're tootie, you're this, you're that. And Kim is like, okay, I'm not going to sit up here and go back and forth with you. My elevator doesn't go, all the way down like this low. And I'm like, yes, Kim, read, read, read. Do not stoop to her level. Read. So, Kenya is like, what have you directed? You haven't directed anything. And I'm like, Kenya, what have you directed? And somebody, I think straight from the A, one of them, somebody IMDb Kenya and Kim and put them, oh my gosh, and put them together. Kenya, according to IMDb, only directed 2 things, and one of them ain't even out, okay? The other one, like, was straight to DVD. Kim done did House of Pain, Let's Stay Together, Ricky Smiley Morning Show, and I've seen Kim's names on thousands, countless of TV shows. I've yet, this is the most recent thing that Kenya has done, Real Housewives of Atlanta. And maybe her little booty boot camp copy, workout video from Phaedra. So I'm like, don't be trying to come for Kim, because Kim's credibility and Kim's resume is twice as long as yours. And you, in your mind, you think that you some big hot shot, and you nothing. You this is your only credit that you have as an actress. And that's Real Housewives of Atlanta. So she gets up, and Kim is getting frustrated. So she gets up and she's like, oh, you're going to make your exit? She gets up and pulls the chair out from under Kim. I felt Kim's anger. And I'm like, you know what? This is the bullshit that Bravo be letting Kenya get away with. First of all, she be provoking people. She stay provoking people. She stay getting in a personal space. Now, she didn't put her hands on Kim, granted, but she pulled the chair out from under Kim. Now, if Kim would have fell out of that chair, Kim would have had all rights, all permission, all anything to whoop Kenya's ass. And I would have been here for it. I would have been like, Bravo, if you fire Kim, I'm boycotting, I'm protesting. Everybody would have went off, because Kenya knows what she does. She purposely provokes people, and then when they react, that's when she wants to cry that she's the victim. Kenya, you need to learn how to stay out of people's personal space. That is your problem. And then on top of that, you're not professional. You're a hater. If it's not the Kenya Moore show, then this is nobody's show. And this is not even about you. It's about Cynthia. You were unprofessional. You were unprofessional. You couldn't even call your friend and say, hey, I can't make it. She had to call you, okay? So you are very unprofessional. You're childish. You're a bitch. You are just disgusting. Like, you disgust me. And it's like, it's annoying now. Like, I can understand you going through the issues that you going through with your mom treating you the way she treating you, but you can't use that as an excuse all the time. You cannot. And I don't care. If anybody feels like Kenya was right at all in this episode, you could get some too. Because Kenya was not right at all. She was all the way wrong. All the way wrong. You don't get in nobody's personal space. And she's lucky that Kim had her Jesus with her, because Kim looked like she was going to attack. Kim was so frustrated, she went back to her suite and talked about it with her husband. And she was getting pissed that she was talking about it. And her husband is like, well, this is the deal. She's upset because she lost to you. So now she wants to, discredit you and make it seem like you're a nobody, when we all know that that's not the truth. And I'm like, yes, Kim, your husband got your back. He is telling you truth. He is letting you know, Kenya, and that's what it is. Honestly, I feel like Kenya is hella jealous of Kim, and she is. Kim has the husband. Kim has the kids. Kim has the career that Kenya wants, and Kenya can have it, but she needs to stop being bitter, and she's just too much, too friggin' much. So then, Kim is trying to calm down, explain the situation with her husband, and then Kenya is over there telling Matt, and of course, because Matt is trying to get with Kenya, he's her yes man. So, but it's like, Matt, you can't really have too much of an opinion right now, because you don't know the real Kenya. And before you got on this show and you took this trip with Kenya, you should have watched season, 6 through now. season 6. Did she start on season 6? Yeah, I think season 5 or season 6 through now to see how Kenya is. Kenya is friggin' loco. Matter of fact, you should have watched the first season that Kenya came onto, and you'll see how she was with Walter. Okay, so you could be her little yes man because you don't know no better. So I'll let you have a pass. So then they go to dinner. They go out to dinner, or everybody comes. Cynthia. Everybody arrived first. So they sitting there and they chilling or whatever, and Kim is, she feeling the music, she's enjoying herself. Kenya over there at the end of the table, pay her no mind. I'm like, God, you are a hater. If she really doesn't matter to you and she's irrelevant, then why are you worried about what she doing? She chilling, she enjoying herself. You sitting there with the sourpuss face, you could be enjoying yourself too. So then, Cynthia and Peter made their grand entrance, if that's how you say it in French. I don't know. But they made their entrance with Nene and Greg. And so as soon as Nene, entered the room, here's Kenya. I'm like, Even, look, everybody was happy to see Nene. Kenya the only one. Even Sheree was like, bitch, like, where you been? And it was so good to see Nene and Sheree put their differences aside and, say hi, crack a joke, pull out their history, all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, see, that's the original. That's what we miss from Real Housewives of Atlanta. The cackles and the shade, but it was the fun shade, with Sheree and Nene. And I was like, she saw Bob, it was just fun. So again, the topic of Kenya and Kim popped up, and Kenya's and Kim is like, well, I don't know where the issue stands. I still don't know where it stands. I'm just doing my job here as a director or whatever for Cynthia. So Kenya is at the end of the table. I'm bored with this topic. Can we leave? So Peter is like, well, Kenya, you seem to have an issue. What's the issue? I don't even want to give this another second. I would rather take one of the spoons and gouge my eyes out than talk about this for another effing minute. Phaedra in her underhanded comments, like, she think nobody be catching what she's saying. I be catching it. Phaedra like, well, does anybody have a spoon? I'm like, right. And then she's like, I would much rather hitchhike and get in a truck and drive off a cliff. I would much rather take one of these lanterns and shove them up my ass and burn myself before I talk about this conversation again. So Peter is like, yo, where the lantern? Can somebody give her a lantern? I'm like, yes, put this bitch out her misery, please. Oh my God, she is such a Debbie friggin' Downer. So as Kim is talking, her and Matt get up and leave. And I'm like, Kenya, girl, bye. Because now we could get down to the nitty gritty or whatever. And, Nene is like, well, somebody in their feelings or whatever. So, the topic of her and Kenya being BFFs came up. And Cynthia was like, okay, I never said we were BFFs. I said we were close friends and we were getting to know each other. So I'm like, I do remember Cynthia saying they were BFFs at one point. Or am I wrong? Or did we just assume that or we made that up? I don't know. So Kenya is with Matt and she's telling him, I'm bored at this point. And she's sitting there with her monotone voice, giving her explanation. I'm over it. So, they left or whatever. So the next day, Nene and Sheree meet up and they're talking. And, they're cracking jokes or whatever. And, Sheree is like, dang, bitch, the last time I saw you. No, Nene was like, the last time I saw you. Sheree was like, you told me to fix that body. And, they went back and they did the flashbacks of Sheree and Nene throwing shade to each other. So, Sheree is like, they're just like, the last time I saw Nene and Greg was at a funeral, and Nene was telling, and Nene checked Greg for talking to me, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, because Nene don't want, Nene is very territorial, but ain't nothing wrong with that. So they were discussing Cynthia and Kenya's friendship, and Nene is like, I basically think, well, she said this at the table too. She was like, I think that Kenya was a solid replacement for me, but she will never be Nene. And her friendship with Cynthia will never compare to our friendship. She was just Cynthia's best friend for now, her BFFN. And I'm like, you know what, Kenya? I agree. I agree because you decided to leave this season and you and Cynthia weren't friends like that. That's the only reason why Kenya swooped in and started calling herself besties with Cynthia. That's the only reason. So, Portia and Phaedra are on the beach and they sitting there and they talking about the situation too. And Portia is like, did you see that flip flap flopper talking about her and Kenya weren't friends? And you know, Phaedra was like, she like, I don't know this hoe no more. And I'm sitting here dying laughing because Portia and Phaedra's commentary is hilarious. So Portia's like, well, Oliver saying he might be able to come, and this Venezuelan, he ain't gonna know how to act once he gets some of this chocolate. I'm gonna make his straight hair turn nappy. I'm like, I can't. Portia and Phaedra need their own show. They need a talk show. They need something like what Andy got on Watch What Happens Live, because those two and their commentary be killing me. So then Portia asks Phaedra, what you gonna do when you get a man girl? And Phaedra's like, rah, rah. And I'm like, yo, these two, I can't. They are hilarious. So Sheree goes to Kenya and talk about what Cynthia said at the table about Kenya and Cynthia not being friends like that. And I'm like, Sheree, you doing it. You doing it. And I'm like, remember, in season 5, Phaedra did say that Sheree is queen of throwing people under the bus. So I'm like, oh, child. So, Kenya is like, okay, so now that your best friend backstabber who is in the picture, now you want to downplay our friendship. And, so, she's like, well, you got to talk to her about that. And she's like, I am going to talk to her about it. So, in the midst of all of this happening, Mallory surprises Cynthia at the suite. She flew in. Peter flew her in. And I'm like, oh, Peter is just doing all kinds of reuniting on this trip. I live. So, Mallory is there. And, Cynthia is like, wow, they getting along. They not fighting. Because we all know how Mal and Peter are. So Cynthia is like a kid in a candy store. She's like, oh, by the way, Nene is here. And Mallory is like, what? So then Kenya comes, knock on the door to come talk to Cynthia. And she takes Kenya to the side. Cynthia is like, well, if Kenya decides she gonna read me or she gonna do something, I need you to listen out or whatever. So they sit down and they talk. And Kenya is like, I just feel a kind of way because I heard that you were talking about how we're not best friends or something like that. And, Cynthia was like, I didn't say that now. Like, come on. So, she's like, okay, well, now that Nene is back in the picture, now you downplaying our friendship. You done already gave the job to Kim and booted me out of the commercial. Now that Nene's here, you trying to play like we're not friends? Like, come on. So as she's saying all of this, Cynthia's sitting there like hella unbothered, like, bitch, are you done? And she's like, am I done? She's like, yeah, I'm asking you that because we got to go. Kenya was like, well, you know what? You guys go to Kingston. I don't want to go because I feel like, this. And, Cynthia at this point is like, you know what? I don't really care about what Kenya is saying and how she feels or whatever because this is not the Kenya Moore show. I got stuff to do out here. And Kenya's not being professional. That's it. That's all. We'll deal with this another time. And that was it. And I'm like, yes, are you done? You said, and it is. Kenya is always in her feelings. And that's why things never go her way. That's why things never go. That's why good things never happen with her because she is always in her feelings and she's always being immature. And it's ridiculous. Kenya is just a lost friggin' cause. And it's like, you know what? I wanted to be here for Kenya and I wanted to give her a chance to explain and see why she acts the way she acts. But every single time you try to do that with Kenya, she turns you off. And I was completely disgusted by Kenya this episode. And it looks like I'm going to be even more disgusted about her. Because again, here she go talking about married folks and their business. How you going to ask why she brought her kids on a trip? She can do whatever she wants, okay? Her kids is not going to interrupt her professionalism. You know nothing about professionalism. And then next week you want to talk about how her husband's gay. Somebody's husband is always gay to you. Dang, Kenya, are you gay? You care this much about other women, other married women in their business. I mean, are you trying to lick her kitty? I mean, geez. Like, Kenya just pissed me off this episode. But I told y'all I was gonna go off, and I had to. I had to get that off my chest. Kenya was in no way right at all this episode, and you cannot tell me different. I will debate you all day. She was not right in this episode at all. But that was Real Housewives season 8, episode 13. You let me know how you feel. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.